Greetings, everyone from Whitby, Ontario, Canada. My name is Dipchan Ramcharita. I'm the Outreach and Development Coordinator here at Voice of Men 360. Voice of Men 360 is a nonprofit organization based in London, Ontario, Canada. Today we have a very special guest all the way from Malaysia. Let me introduce Chiron Yeng. He's an international spiritual mentor, creator of HeartQuest. He's a TEDx speaker, author, podcast host. So, it's morning to you, Chiron. How are you today?
I'm doing amazing. This morning is beautiful, and I always love to wake up with a prayer to the world.
Excellent. So, before we continue, I'll just read out the disclaimer for our organization. Voice of Men 360's disclaimer. We would like to remind you that Voice of Men 360's mission is always delivered with good faith towards peaceful harmony. The views and opinions expressed in today's episode are those of our speakers and do not necessarily represent Voice of Men 360. Our organization engages in discussion forums to offer inspiration and create awareness of the issues of men who wish to overcome their life challenges. We are not providing medical or therapeutic advice. Should you require that type of assistance, we recommend you contact a medical professional immediately. If you have any questions or concerns about today's episode or any Voice of Men 360 content, please email us at info@voiceofmen360.org. So on with the show today. And Chiron, it's indeed a pleasure to have you aboard. And let's dive right in. So first of all, can you tell us what prompted you for your initial interest that you show in a spiritual and holistic well-being?
Well, it all started when I was a child, and I was basically suffering with an autoimmune condition with skin issues. And with that, me and my family was searching for a remedy, for an answer, but no matter what we tried, things just ended up as a roadblock. And I asked the question, how can I heal? How can I get better without using drugs? How can I feel better without, going through deep therapeutic medical intervention that is really harming not just my other parts of my body, like a physical body, but also like my emotions, my social life, my relationship with people, and of course within myself and the world. So the turning point came to me when I was 16 years old and decided to just remove all the drugs from my life. And then that opened up the door of a potential idea that our body can naturally heal itself. And that led me towards a spiritual journey, where I realized that healing of the body is not just healing of the physical body. It has to come through a mental, emotional, social relationship, and also, of course, a spiritual relationship with life. And with that, goes down the rabbit hole of one thing led to another. And it's like my own unique hero's journey, realizing that the missing link to healing is actually love.
Yeah, well, that's quite a trip you were on there, I must say. And it's certainly from what I can see and what I've read about you, it's worth it. So, I think that the one of the issues with society in general is that in Western culture, we tend to ignore Eastern philosophy and things that are more of a holistic nature. So by all means, when you're involved in a serious accident or something, the emergency room is where you need to go. There's no question about that. So there's a definitive place for Western medicine. But there's also the other part to that, which is the holistic part, the part of spiritual and other means of communicating to the body and with the body in terms of, what would work as best as possible for effective healing. So you need, I guess, both sides to be involved, in this process. So one of the things I noticed is that you wrote a book called Coming Home. Can you tell us What inspired you to write this book?
Right. Writing this book is actually, it begins with this connection of needing to accumulate, I mean, to write down and, you know, memorialize all the experience that I have. And I realized that I have a lot of wisdom to share, and about my experiences, about life, you know, about life purpose, about being lost and finding yourself back. And the journey of the book is really interesting because when I searched for healing and I left home, left Malaysia to travel all around the world, and I traveled through 5 continents, by the way, to search for healing from doctors, naturopath, Western, Eastern, shamans, spiritual practitioners, healers, and all different kind of modalities. And I made myself as a little lab rat to try all different things to really understand what is this thing called healing, and how can we really promote healing. And the journey of that really is about coming home to yourself, that no one in this world can heal you until you say yes to your own healing. And the funny thing is that I found my healing, yes, throughout the journey, but eventually it became full circle when I came back home to Malaysia in 2020, right around the lockdown. And it was very interesting because I thought healing was somewhere out there, was maybe the miracle pill was somewhere out there, or maybe a method or a technique. You know, I was tempted to go to the ashram, to retreats, to the mountains, and be disconnected from society, so maybe I could heal that way. But it's interesting that the universe brought me back home, to my own home, in my own country, my own family. And then the lockdown happened, where it just closes everything off, right? So I lost, in that moment, I lost all accessibility to all the people and methods and techniques, and even the supplements that I was taking wasn't available for me anymore, because there was some logistical issues going on with the lockdown and all. But what I realized in that moment of darkness and the moment of trap is that it's a moment of liberation as well, right? The darkest time of our life is the moment where the brightest light shine. And I realized in that moment, oh, actually, I can heal myself. And something out there is definitely necessary to supplement what needs to go in the healing on the inside. But one thing that I realized during that moment is the forgiveness towards myself, towards my parents, towards the doctors, towards the world, for being an imperfect place. And the moment that I actually did that, I realize the spiritual energy within me starts to open up. And this is where miraculous things starts to happen. And I actually documented that. In 3 months, the healing expedite in ways that I couldn't imagine. But basically the symptoms just move away after 3 months. Of course, having some help from um, different methods of working with the subconscious mind. So I wrote that book to document this entire journey, to show us that this thing that we call miraculous healing is actually is backed up by science, is backed up by a lot of like um the holistic aspect of things. When they come together as a dream team, as a combination, the healing just happens very quickly, and our bodies and our cells are designed to heal, regenerate, and be whole. So coming home is that journey that I document. And anybody who are stuck in chronic issues, whether it's physical or mental, as they read that book, they'll find themselves in that journey. And the healing itself is reading that story, because when you can shift your narrative of being a victim, of being someone who's like something happened to you, to stepping in as a power to be a creator of your life, your entire life will start to shift.
Yeah, that is fascinating, and this seems to be a bit of a controversy, especially in Western culture.
For sure.
This narrative about victimhood, and my strong belief is that if you push yourself, we all have hurdles, we all have crosses to bear. But if you make the extra effort and you do the work, I think you would see results. In most of the cases, there might be instances where I mean, it's like Murphy's law. It doesn't matter what you do; there's always something that's going to go wrong. But in general terms, I think for the average person, if you do the work, you'd see the results. So it's fascinating, your journey so far. In this conversation, I can tell you've had quite a climb, but you've shown just rewards for it. On the topic of the book, what kind of feedback have you received on your book so far?
Um, One of the feedback is, of course, people seeing themselves in my own shoes, right? Even though it's my story, it's my memoir, but I think human pain, human suffering, despite the different walks of life and despite the different backgrounds and experiences, we share a common thread. We share a common experience. We feel each other, and when you can see yourself in that sense, it's almost like putting your suffering in a wider perspective, and then you're not caught up with it anymore. So many people found that it's really heart opening. And then they found greater love and more compassionate empathy for those suffering around them. And I as well have many people with, had cancer, autoimmune conditions that is unexplained, as like mysterious illnesses, begin to soften down in a way they relate with it, right? There's some level of deep acceptance and forgiveness that comes with it, and that to me is a sign of healing on the internal level. And this means that you're receptive for any external interventions that needs to happen. I also found people realizing, feeling more empowered to go after their life, to not wait for the right things to happen in their life to pursue what they truly believe in and what they're truly passionate about. So they stop waiting, they start acting, and the acting itself is the medicine, it's the passion, it's the purpose. So I found that many people who wrote back to me is that they found their purpose through my book.
Excellent. I have a case where there is someone who's who's got currently a stage 4 cancer, and there's pretty much little hope for that person. Do you have any suggestions, anything that might give them some glimmer, some lift in their life?
For sure. With that, I really have to bring up this taboo topic of, facing death, right? And death is something that in our society we don't talk a lot about. The thing is that every day in our life, as we are living, right, we are slowly dying as well. And death, it shows that life is impermanent. But because if it's impermanent, then the greatest pain for me, my personal experience with suffering and illness, is not the attachments that I have to my life, to my relationships, to people. My greatest pain is regret of not living a full life. So when we're confronted with death, when we're confronted with something really alive in front of us, this is an invitation to listen and not to judge the experience. And instead, what is this disease? What is this, whether it's cancer, autoimmune, or anything, any chronic illness? What is this teaching me right now? And I really invite anybody who's going through cancer or anything like that is to love yourself so much. Don't hold back your expression of your love to the people around you. Don't wait for something to happen before you live your life, before you express your authenticity. Because deep down, the root cause of a metaphysical, emotional root cause of a cancer is that you're not allowing yourself to be who you are. You're repressing yourself and you judge yourself. And there's this deep level of self hatred. So I'll say, to anybody who's going through this right now, this is an invitation to love yourself deeper, to surrender yourself to love, and whatever that means to you.
Okay, that sounds like very good advice, and I want to thank you for that. So, getting more into the nitty gritty of what you actually do, how can one integrate mindfulness, meditation, and other spiritual practices into your daily life?
Right. On a very practical way, what we can do is that we have to set up routines every single morning. And what I always teach my clients and people is that, we have full of distractions in our daily life. But if we don't protect our first hour of the morning for ourselves to take care of our well-being, whether it's meditation or mindfulness, or is it journaling, or is it reading, and we don't give ourselves that space, no matter how busy we are, then it's easily that we get lost in people's expectation, in people's what they want from you, and the days just pass by and you don't even know if you're truly living or not, or you're just simply going through the motion. So one thing I really tell people to practice is that first hour of the morning, don't look at your phone, right? Set up something called a morning routine, right? Breathe, go connect to nature, look at the sun, take a cold shower, do some exercise, do some breath work, and come into your heart and ask yourself this one thing: who do I want to become today? Who do I want to be? Do I want to be someone who just follow everybody's expectation, or do I want to make sure that my life is intentional and every choices that I make is coherent and aligned to the deeper passion, to the deeper purpose of who I want to be, right? When you are able to set it up in the morning intentionally, then let go, enjoy the rest of the day. And what I realized in this practice, people gain more clarity, they're more productive, they're more efficient. And because they're really just taking the wins in the morning to truly live, then it sets the tone for the rest of the day. So mindfulness and meditation and being present with where you're at becomes a natural process without you needing to discipline yourself to make it work, right? But otherwise, that first hour morning of the morning is really just having that connection between you and yourself.
Yeah, it certainly makes a lot of sense to have some sort of routine, during the day. I don't know if you know of Dr. Jordan Peterson, but he's a Canadian psychologist. I hope I have the title correct. But he's written a couple of books, and one of them he said the first thing you do when you get up in the morning is to make your own bed. So
Yeah.
it's a way to start your life. It sounds very, like I guess menial, like it doesn't make sense, but there's a deeper meaning attached to it, and there is a significance that follows when you start your day like that. So it's something that people should really think about. And what I mean by that is to have some sort of routine for how your day progress, and certainly to incorporate things like mindfulness, meditation, yoga, and these things. Not everybody may agree with that, but I think overall, I think it has been proven scientifically to be helpful to get somebody in a more balanced way of carrying out their lives. Um, as you know, we are a men's organization, so some of my curiosity or questions are more leaning towards that direction. So, in that regard, how can men cultivate resilience in the face of challenges, including pressures of social expectations and stigmas?
Hmm. Good question and really powerful question. The greatest intrinsic motivation is definitely having a purpose. A man on a mission is a very powerful man, and men, socially, intergenerationally, are cultured to be protectors of the world, to be that person that creates safety and trust. But the question is, if we can't create safety and trust within ourselves, we can't befriend our emotions, we can't befriend our shadows, our weaknesses, our limitations. How are we to create that for the people around us, for our children, for our wife, for our families, or for our organizations that we are taking care of, right? So having a purpose that is mission driven to serve something bigger than who we are really fulfills this man evolutionary, biological need to protect and serve and create safety and trust. And when I say purpose and a mission, I'm not saying like some form of duty or obligation and responsibility. Let it be something that you're passionate about, that you'll wake up in the morning to feel like this is so exciting, and I'll go through any pains, anything, because I love this sense of self mastery that I get in the face of those challenges. And when you can drive your intrinsic motivation, knowing that there will be some fulfillment at the end of your pain or the end of the challenge or the crisis, you'll definitely show up because the whole world relies on you. Now that might sound like, oh, so heavy, right? So heavy and so burden. And should I keep everything to myself? Of course not. And this is why you have organizations like you. I think it's powerful to have men's, to have some level of camaraderie, to have some form of brotherhood and manhood that really celebrates everything and anything that we couldn't, share with our partner because we seems to be the leader of that needs to take care of anything. But here's what I'm gonna say, right? This is why I do the work of the heart, that love and leading doesn't have to be always so rigid or fierce or so like push through everything, no pain, no gain. It can be soft, right? Men that knows how to soften, to open up to the vulnerability of their emotions and befriend those things are more powerful people, because it's gonna help them move through anything by simply accepting what it is. This is where you're at, but also knowing and realizing where the edge of growth is. And when you can have that perspective of like understanding where you're at, with the challenges that you're in, and always looking towards the light of that North Star of that purpose that you're going through, the resilience, right? The motivation, the doing whatever it takes to love yourself and people around you, it's just a natural byproduct, because it's all for that higher thing that we want to go after for.
Absolutely. So on a more general front, what advice would you offer for maintaining a work-life balance?
Maintaining a work-life balance.
Yeah.
I truly believe there's no such thing as balance, like true balance, like work-life balance, because when you try to balance one thing, another thing will just fall apart, right? Like you say, Murphy's Law.
Yeah.
So that's we need to really delete the word balance and start integrating the word integration, right? That's work-life integration. And this is what I do for myself, right? Everything that I do are integrated towards the larger purpose and mission that I'm bringing in. And one thing that I get people to do is to do something, some form of like a commitment auditing. You got to audit your commitments. Everything and anything that does not align to that North Star has to be removed or eliminated to make space for things that really builds towards that. It could be your work, it could be your life, right? Meaning we delete and eliminate anything, any bad habits that really takes our time, energy, attention, and money. And we start putting in like working out, putting things like mindfulness practices, reading, right? Cooking, and doing house chores for the wife sometimes, or your partner. Those things builds towards the bigger purpose, because you want to create the future that you desire. And here's what I'm going to say to many of the men out there, and this is what I often say to my clients: your future desires have to be greater than your present circumstances that is defined by the past, right? You got to let go the past, not by fixing the past, but by focusing on the future that you want to create. So it's not about eliminating bad habits through willpower, like I want to get rid of this addiction. It's not that, but doing more of the creative things that brings you more energy, that brings you more passion, that brings you more love for you to share to your family and the workspace that you're in.
Yeah, well, I especially like that. Focus on the future, but be mindful of your past, which is good advice for anybody. And what about family and friends? So, what can men do to ensure they nurture healthy relationships with family and friends?
Open your heart.
Open your heart. I know that
Open
song
your
somewhat.
heart. All right, and this starts with building a good relationship with yourself, which goes back to the conversation about morning routine, right? The first hour of the day, know what your mission in life is. Who do you want to be? Love yourself. What are some limitations and insecurities are you facing? Who can you reach out to ask for this kind of help? So the thing with men is that they like to keep everything to themselves and try to
Yes,
figure everything out for themselves, and this is
true.
exactly the problem, right? I did not get here by myself, by the way. I did not heal by myself. I have a mentor. I actually have a dream team. I see these different people for different kind of things. They are both men and women, and I learn from them so that I can make sure that I am the best person that the people that I love, like friends and family, that they can hang out with. If I'm my worst self, right, I'm doing a disservice to people around me. So my commitment to myself is really, how can I be the best version of myself to the people around me? And that to me is some form of a male responsibility, I think.
Yeah,
It's for anybody, but
yeah.
particularly for me, as I identify as a male, as a man, that hey, I want people to feel safe and trustworthy around me. So I'm going to set those standards. I'm going to communicate effectively. But again, it starts with me by opening my heart to myself and the darker parts of myself, so I can and get myself some help so that people around me can really truly benefit from me.
Yeah, it's no secret that men absolutely don't like to go out there and open their hearts and their souls. And there are some stigmas attached to that, obviously, but the bottom line is they need to step past those hurdles and get out there And we're all human beings. We all have an emotional and spiritual side to ourselves. We don't just function as robots. So we need to get out there and let people who care about us and others know when we're vulnerable, when we need help. So, yeah, that's certainly something that we need to do. Now, more on a professional level, how can men apply spiritual principles to leadership and professional growth?
Well, let's just first define what spiritual is because it's a buzzword and for different people it means different things, right? I think to me, spirituality and spiritual leadership is really, what I call leading with love. And again, love is a buzzword. What does it mean? And love can look fierce and sometimes it looks gentle. Tough love is love, but love shouldn't be defined as any other way because love is always unconditional. So the question is, how do we bring this to our organization? How do I bring this to professional setting? Right? Most of us have the stigma or the belief and idea that if I soften down and open my vulnerability to my coworkers, to people under my wing, will they see me as weak? Will they see me as unreliable and untrustworthy? Right? And I guess spiritual leadership is you name it as it is, and your commitment is towards the truth of the matter, not what you believe or not what your opinions are. We look at facts, we look at people's feedback, and it's about leading through the fire of things. It's not about escaping conflict. It's not about avoiding. It's not about fighting for the sake of fighting because that's what we like to do, especially when our ego comes up. We like to be right. So the question I always ask, would you rather be effective or would you rather be right? Right? So spiritual leadership is to first embrace that you are a human. And then when you go into that space of that needs to confront this conflict, can you create a win-win-win situation every time? I think as a role of a leader, that's the hardest thing to happen because you can't keep everybody happy. But
Right,
this is where the negotiation happens. This is where, your emotional agility comes in. How do you deal with people's emotion? And how do you deal with dealing with matters and separating that, compartmentalizing that with emotional situation? I can forgive anybody because I don't think everybody means bad or trying to create destruction. But when it comes to certain situation and decision making that needs to be very practical, on the dot, knife cutting, right? This is where the tough love needs to come in and deal with those conflict resolution in separate matters so that
right.
people understand and can trust your leadership that you're going towards somewhere and progressing towards something at the same time, not burning people in the
Exactly.
process.
Yeah,
And this is so important because you're not going to able to lead people through these things until you deal it within yourself. So
right.
spiritual leadership is really about self-actualization and healing from within first, and then when you go out there and step into your role as a leader and taking up this responsibility, you can guide people to their greatest version of themselves. On top of
Right.
that, create an organization and community that really supports the rest of the world.
Excellent. What about for struggling men? What resources or support system would you recommend?
For struggling men,
Yes.
well, um resources is, I think, the greatest resources that you can invest in because there's so many things out there, right? There's many therapy work, men's circle, organizations like yours to help men to move through difficult things. But eventually the greatest resource is self-resource,
Right.
right? How can you create that ability to regulate your emotions, regulate your nervous system, right? And so much that when stress comes in, you don't make it about you, right? You get to see the bigger picture. And then of course, right, surrounding yourself in an environment that supports that, because here's the thing, here's the reality. Not everybody wants to grow.
True.
Not everybody wants to transform. And we heard of the news of the statement, right? We are the version of ourselves is an average of the 5 people we hang out with. So
Right.
I'll say, put yourself in the room of men that inspires you, that you want to be with, and really talk to them, understand what are their habits and behaviors, and see if you could put yourself in those rooms and elevate yourself. That's the greatest resources. And it's not about getting advices from these people or wishing that they can take your problems away, but really telling yourself that, okay, I want some level of self mastery in my life, so I'm gonna look at role models that really are able to be 10 steps ahead of me, the life that I want to have, and then just learn from them. Immerse
Yeah,
yourself with learning, podcasts, rooms. And what I love is most importantly is mentorship, one-on-one mentorship, one on group mentorship, people that you can, the person that you can look for advices, and not just advices, but for someone to guide you step by step, move through those things together, rather than this top down relationship that you have with your advisor or your mentor. So putting
yeah.
yourself in rooms like that is powerful.
Yeah, you certainly need to, get off of your inner self and get out there and seek help from others. But as you said, and it works in many cases, even like addictions and other things, you need to acknowledge where you are before you move on. You can't live in delusion. So
Exactly.
that's
Yeah.
an excellent point. We have pretty much. No time left, but what I can say is I can give you some information about our organization, and then I have one last question for you. So we have a session called Open Up, which is a live talk show host on Sunday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. There's another one called Vili, which is in Tamil. It's a live talk show host again on Sunday at 8 a.m. EST. There's a monthly men's group only for men by men on Saturdays of every month from 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. through Zoom. No recordings. Please join us through Zoom. The link is available on our Facebook and group page. There are no limitations to age, gender, nationality, or ethnic groups. All walks of life can participate in any of our shows. If you want to be a guest on any of our shows or willing to be part of our organization and help us directly or indirectly, please reach out to us. We would love to work with individuals, professionals, experts, community organizations, associations, corporations, government officials, and businesses. Number is 226-289-8784. Our email address is info@voiceofmen360.org. Our website is voiceofmen360.org. That's www.voiceofmen360.org. You can find us on pretty much all social media. We have a Facebook group page. Please join our group and you can see our daily activities and, of course, invite your friends as well. Other social media platforms we have Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, YouTube, and TikTok. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel, Voice of Men 360. We want to reach out to as many people as possible. Please continue your support. We really appreciate that. So we're winding down towards the end of the program. And one final question for you, Kyron. How can listeners connect with you or learn more about your work, including any upcoming events, books, or projects that you'd like to share? Can you give, well, I think you've already given us a link for your book and, how you can be reached. But regarding, contact information or any upcoming events, things like that, can you
Yeah.
shed some light on that? Thank you.
Yeah, the best way to connect with me is through my Instagram, and the handle is at Chiron Yeng, right? My name, CHIRONYENG. That's the best way to communicate with me. Send me a DM, follow me there. I'll follow you back, and we can create a connection there, and then we can have a chat. Personally, I'm pretty active there, so you wouldn't miss me replying you. The next thing that I would love to share is that I have a masterclass that I put out for free every month. This is happening this Thursday on Malaysian time, 8 p.m. I believe it's I think Eastern Standard Time, it's 7 a.m. or something. Yep, it's
Right.
7 a.m. Yep,
Yeah.
on Thursday, right? And basically, I'm going to talk about the 7 heart principles of, leadership, and how that actually moved through my journey. And I'll share my journey with you in greater detail, and the 7 heart principles that actually got me to 10x my health, wealth, and my impact. So that will be an amazing place if you want to check out more detail on the work that I do. But
Is
other
there a
than
link
that,
to
yeah,
that? Sorry, I was just
yes,
going to
there's a
ask.
link. Yeah, there's a link to that. It's on top of my head. It's www.chironyeng.com/masterclass.
Okay.
Right. Right. And otherwise, I can also send you the link, or maybe can comment somewhere so that people can just click on it.
Yeah, we can put it in the description of the video.
Okay. Awesome.
Yeah. So is there anything else you would like to share with us before we go?
Nope. For now,
Okay.
that would be great.
Well, yeah, well, I want to thank you so much. Thanks to our esteemed guest today, Chiron Yeng. He is an international spiritual mentor, creator of HeartQuest, TEDx speaker, author, podcast host. This has been a very inspiring and knowledgeable session. I've certainly learned quite a few things. And of course, some of it has been more of a reassurance. But for the audience out there, I want to thank you for tuning in to us. We certainly appreciate your support. And again, to Chiron, thank you so much. And from all of us here at Voice of Men 360, we wish you a good evening, good night, good morning, wherever you may be. Thank you and goodbye.
Thank you.
So, Chiron, are you still there?